One of the great sponsors of the Best Ball family of podcasts is Atomic Golf. If you are a golf course, a golf brand, a group of friends getting together for a buddy's trip, and y'all want some custom ball markers, divot repair tools, trophies, things like that, check out atomicgolf.club, or you can follow them on Instagram at Atomic Golf, and be sure to tell them that you heard about it on a Best Ball podcast.
Again, not to get too much into football, but Jason and I were an odd couple out on the course because, Jason, tell everybody out there listening who you are a passionate fan.
So I'm an Ohio State Buckeyes fan. I'm going to be honest with you. I dislike Alabama a lot more than I dislike Michigan, and I was pulling for Michigan. I mean, but I was actually pulling Michigan when they were playing Alabama.
It's so cool. The golf course brings people together that are odd matches, or people from all different life experiences. I see people from all different parts of the country, different parts of the world. We see people from different socioeconomic classes. We see people who with different personalities, and of course, we experience rounds with those who are our arch enemies out on the football field. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Caddie Tales. I'm Mark Militz, Mark the Caddie, and I'm joined today by my caddy brother, Nick Bartz. And also today our guest is Jason Oberdier. Jason is someone that I caddied for this past season, and so we'll ask him some questions in a few moments about what that experience was like so that you listeners can get an idea of what you could expect if you came to a major golf resort and found yourself with a caddy. So this is going to be especially helpful for those who've never had a caddy before or who are scared to have one, but also might bring up some memories for those who've had similar experiences. But first of all, I want to pay my condolences to Nick and his loss, his pain last night in the Packers game. It looked like they had it, Nick. I'm really sorry. How you feeling today?
Yeah, I mean, the wounds are still pretty fresh. It's been a pretty rough start of the football season for me this year. I think I've aged about 30 years in the past 2-3 weeks. So yeah, I'm hanging in there.
For those who don't know out there, Nick is an Alabama fan, and so he lost to my Michigan Wolverines. And we're recording this today just about 60 minutes before kickoff for the Detroit Lions versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So hopefully this smile is just as wide a few hours from now.
Can we get a prediction from you on a final score? Because that way it'd be funny when it plays back.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Lions 34, Buccaneers 24.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I have to laugh. You know, we did our first podcast last week, Nick, and I'm looking forward to doing this with you and growing with you and improving for our listeners. But one of the things that made me laugh, the most startling revelation that came out of the pod for our caddy brothers who listen to the show, and for you, somebody who I talk to daily, is that you realized you have been saying my last name wrong for 5 years. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, it's I mean, one of our caddy brothers introduced you to me as Malotz, and you know that's stuck. And everyone's got a nickname, so that's yours.
Yeah. So you know, we often call each other by last names or nicknames in the Caddy Shack, and I'm known as Malotz when I'm called out to differentiate me from any other marks, but my last name is actually pronounced Militz. And I actually found myself in the last year or two sometimes just saying Malotz to people because it was easier. It was the path to least resistance. But enough about that. Back to this opportunity to talk about how golf mirrors life in so many ways. And that's something that I really, really hope that comes across in these episodes that we're going to be doing for people, is that one of the things that I love about golf is that the lessons that you can learn and the experiences that you can have out on the golf course mirror life and we can take lessons that we learn in life and apply them to golf, and we can take the lessons we learn from the course and apply them to life, and we can kind of see ourselves in those scenarios. And one of the things that I appreciate is when I get to be with other golfers and see how they experience those things, how they adjust to circumstances, how they react to things that are both positive and negative. And so when I was thinking about who's the first golfer that I want to have as a guest on this show, Jason immediately came to mind. So welcome, Jason.
I wonder why that is, by the way.
Yeah, there's a few reasons. But, again, not to get too much into football, but Jason and I were an odd couple out on the course because, Jason, tell everybody out there listening who you are a passionate fan.
So I'm an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, and it was a little rough this year, but I'm going to be honest with you. I dislike Alabama a lot more than I dislike Michigan, and I was pulling for Michigan. I mean, but I was actually pulling Michigan when they were playing Alabama.
Yeah, you texted me that during the game. And so, it's so cool. The golf course brings people together that are odd matches, or people from all different life experiences. I see people from all different parts of the country, different parts of the world. We see people from different socioeconomic classes. We see people who with different personalities. And, of course, we experience rounds with those who are our arch enemies out on the football field. But in spite of that, Jason and I got along really well, and we enjoyed the day together quite a bit. And so, Jason, what I want you to be able to convey today is some of what you were feeling on that day, some of what you might be thinking is helpful for people to know as they prepare for a trip, or something you think might be helpful for a caddy who is listening out there. But as we get started, let me first ask, before we met, had you ever played golf with a caddy?
Yeah, I was thinking about this last night, and I started writing down the courses that I've had a caddy at, and I just kind of wrote down, I have about 20 of them that I've had a caddy previously.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been some really nice golf clubs. And so our experience wasn't anything new to me that day. But every time it's great. It's an adventure. You got two personalities that, you're trying to mesh together, and, there can be some frustration there. And, but you try to make the best day and, just enjoy your round. So, it's probably at least 20. I mean, I wrote kind of some notes down. I have at least probably 20 written down.
Wow. Okay. So, and you'd say overall your experiences have been generally
I've never
positive.
had a negative experience.
Yeah. So, Nick, let me ask you, certainly that means he's had some luck with some good caddies, but also, what would be your guess about Jason, something about his personality without knowing him that would be something that you would deduce from that he's been having mostly positive experiences? What kind of guy do you think Jason is?
He's probably pretty calm, doesn't, maybe doesn't treat the game over seriously. Maybe just tries to have fun more than, rather than trying to shoot under par or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think that, it's an attitude that a lot of times people bring to the table, is that, the kind of person they are is going to end up shining out there at some point. And so those people who have learned to manage stress in their life, or who have, good, kind demeanors, are generally going to be a little more able to handle the struggles that they experience, or be just more enjoyable to be around. So I think that's kind of something that Jason brought to the table for sure, is that he's just a good dude. And
awesome.
One of the things, Jason, why don't you tell the listeners what it is you do?
So I'm actually a phys ed teacher. in a local school district about 20 minutes from my house or so. I've been doing it for 12 years now. So, yeah, no, I absolutely love it. And I actually have connections to the golf business too. I worked pretty much everything but as a caddy. I worked inside in the pro shop. I've been outside maintenance and that kind of stuff. So I've been in golf for about 15 years on that side as well.
Yeah, and the reason I ask that is because, we are caddies at a top 100 golf course. Very expensive to play there. And we meet people. You say, hey, what do you do for a living? We often hear, oh, I'm in finance, or I'm a CEO, or I'm a surgeon. And very rarely, quite frankly, do we hear, I'm a teacher. And so what I thought was really cool is you're with somebody for whom maybe these types of experiences aren't taken for granted. This is a special day, something you save up for, something you get excited about.
Very much so. That was a great trip.
Jason, so something I'd like you to be able to share with the listeners is how you were feeling when we met at the bag drop and we're getting ready to go out onto the course, a course that you're not familiar with, a course that you've heard is really difficult, and certainly a course that you had spent a lot of money on, and so you wanted to have a great experience and do well. Tell me about the thoughts and emotions that were going through your mind.
Going back, I actually booked that trip back in March, and we played it in August, so there was 6 months there of anticipation, excitement, and just being there is like you said, as a teacher, is kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I was ready to get going. Kind of a little side note though, I was also kind of had some personal stuff going on at that time where the school year is about to start. There was some stuff going on family wise that I needed to kind of start taking care of before the summer winded down. So I kind of had a lot going on in my head too on that trip. My wife's pregnant at home with our 2 kids, and I'm going on a golf trip for 5 days and feeling a little guilty about that. So I kind of have a lot going on, and which will lead to what we'll probably talk about in a little bit.
Yes, yeah. By the way, since then you have had the baby. Why don't you tell the listeners what
so
the
baby was
name
born
is?
On January 12th, and his name is Rory Sloan Oberdeer, and Rory actually won the tournament in Dubai this morning, so it's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, very good. I love the name, and golf is a respite from all the things that we have going on, but we don't, they don't leave us. They're like bags we carry in a proverbial way. And so we're, trying to focus and have fun, but life also goes on. And so, then shift to what was your round like?
It was an adventure, that's for sure. There are a lot of ups and downs. There were some good shots in there and a lot of bad ones. But at the end of the day, I mean, it was all about being there and walking around the course and just, taking it all in. I mean, it's a very spiritual place, to say the least. And I had plenty of time where I was, where my mind was kind of out there and I was talking to myself and kind of figuring things out, whether it was golf or just in life in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick, when somebody somebody comes to us and they say, they're an 8 handicap golfer or a 6 or whatever, some sort of average golfer.
Yeah.
And they blow up a few holes. What's a phrase that they might say to us? In a way, they're trying to reassure us, but really they're trying to reassure themselves about the state of their game or the quality of their game.
Yeah, you get a lot of the. I don't usually play this poorly. Or back at home, I'm much better.
Yeah,
I hear that all the time.
And I don't remember if Jason said that, but I had that feeling. That's something that I remember about our round was, this is a guy who's hitting enough shots to show me that he has talent. that he knows how to use a golf club, and that when it's on, it's on. And that makes it even harder then to see that they aren't having the round that they want or expect, because it's not just some hack who's hacking it around. It's somebody who is really struggling their way through. And so it kind of had that, trust me, I'm not really usually this bad kind of vibe to it. He didn't need to say it. I could see it, and I knew what he was feeling. I remember feeling that tension alongside of him because, of course, when he does well, it generally goes better for the caddy and is a more enjoyable day for the caddy as well.
Yeah, well, and us as golfers too, we know how it goes. Like you go to a place and you're super excited for it. You've been saving up for it, and of course you want to play your best round you've ever played. And sometimes it doesn't happen, unfortunately, and it can be frustrating.
Very good. Jason, so as we went through the day, what were some things that you found helpful? Maybe not even necessarily with me in my round, but what are some things that you have found particularly helpful when you have had a caddy? Something that's been meaningful to you, that's made it worth spending that extra money.
Particularly on that day, a ball spotter. I mean, that was huge for me that day. I'm usually pretty good at keeping an eye on things, but especially where we were playing that day, there's some tall grass, there's some spots where it's going to be tough to find the ball. So, I mean, that was huge for me, just kind of keeping the ball, not losing it.
And on our round too, something that was kind of cool was that we ended up getting paired with some other players that you made a connection with. Another Michigander, another Michigan fan. And he actually just messaged me the other night, tells me you guys are still in touch and that you guys, remain connected. He was playing and his wife was walking along.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, we still text weekly. I mean, several times a week we have a conversation. So yeah, no, it's definitely a great connection.
So the cool thing there is that golf is just this game that brings people together, and so even if you don't play like you would want to, some good can come of it. You make connections. We're still in touch. You and Chris are still in touch, and you make new friends. And Nick, would you agree that golf just seems better at doing that than just about any other activity?
Yeah, it definitely bonds you. You're with somebody who's in the same boat as you for 5 hours, and it's awesome. I've seen it happen so many times where you're just like, how are these people going to get along for 5 hours? And somehow they just get along amazingly, like a Michigan fan, Ohio State fan. It's just wild.
Yeah, I think maybe the pacing of the game is something that you can attribute that to, that there's opportunities for conversation and for, that kind of socialization. But I would say that what I have fallen in love with the most as a caddy is just the way that you see it bring people together, whether it's strengthening old bonds or forging new ones. And so, Jason, on that day, at least you were able to have that.
Golf's a great way to connect with people, network. I'm always looking for new people to meet and play with. So, yeah, I absolutely love doing that, whether it's meeting people on Twitter. I mean, I've played with a bunch of people on Twitter that I've never met in person before until meeting at the golf course.
Yeah. So if you wanted to enhance future experiences, what is it that you would want a caddy to know? Your next caddy, let's say you're going to Pebble Beach or Pinehurst or somewhere like that, and you know that you're paying all this money and you are going to get a caddy. If you could transport something from your mind into theirs before the round, what's something you want them to know?
I was thinking about this the other day too, and I think the big thing for a caddy is just being able to kind of read your player. Whether it's somebody that takes the game ultra seriously and, they kind of expect you guys to, be like a pro caddy to them. For me personally, I just look for somebody that, I can shoot the breeze with for 4 hours and, walk around and
Yeah.
and talk sports. Like
Yeah.
Joe LaCava comes to mind when I think of a caddy like that. I know him and Fred Couples would just talk about, football and sports and just kind of everything just to keep the mood relaxed and light and enjoy the day.
Yeah. Well, I saw Nick smile when you said that because Nick,
Yeah.
Nick and I have differing personalities or differing things we look for when we have a loop. And Nick smiled. I'm guessing, Nick, because when he said he's looking for somebody he could shoot the breeze with.
Yeah.
What did you think?
He found the right guy. Yeah, definitely couldn't have
Yeah,
found a better guy for that.
He found that guy. And Nick, what kind of guy are you or gal are you most looking for as far as a connection that you make? And you caddy for all different kinds. It's not like you dislike any kind, but what are you most comfortable with?
I like somebody who's pretty independent and can kind of do their own thing. Hopefully, pretty decent golfer. I mean, if you're not a good golfer, it doesn't really bother me as long as you're not like throwing clubs or screaming at me or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's sometimes too kind of not related, but I think sometimes people think that we get mad if they're not like a good golfer or anything. But at the end of the day, we really don't care.
Yeah. But
personality.
you hit an amazing nail on the head, Jason, being able to read the player, because I've heard it both ways. Actually, I just heard it from somebody the other day relaying a story that they were out on a loop and the other caddy, the player they had, just did not like them because this caddy has a little stick, tries to be funny or super whatever. And this player wanted something a little more serious, a little more even-keeled, maybe less talk, whatever. So there's that. And then there's other times where the caddy needs to pick up on the fact that the player's really down on themselves and just needs some emotional support or needs encouragement in a real way. Sometimes you need to know when it is to just shut up. And so I think something that you can convey to the listeners is that in your experiences, most caddies are able to do that.
Yeah,
pretty well.
like I said, I've never really came across a caddy that, we didn't mesh very well or they, like you said, they didn't know when to stop talking or, and I'm pretty laid back. So, nothing's really going to bother me out there. I'm there to have a good time and enjoy myself.
Right. So if you're out there listening, especially those of you who, you hear this or you decide you want to go to some big top 100 course, but you're really scared or you're afraid the caddy's going to judge you, let me and Nick assure you that that's going to be pretty unlikely to happen. Our goal is to make you feel comfortable and to help you have the best day possible. It doesn't always work out that way. There's no doubt there's times where just people don't click or mesh. But for the most part, you're going to have somebody by your side who wants you to do well because they're generally working for a gratuity. And so if you have a better day, as a golfer, they're probably going to have a better day as a caddy. Most people probably don't have the means to go to the extremes of one couple that I heard about a few years ago who I think it was a husband and wife or a couple of some sort, and they did not want to play alongside anybody because they were so scared of being judged. And so they were able to pay for their round as well as they paid for the other twosome that would have been in the group of four so that they could play alone. And so they were able to pay for that. They paid for both caddy fees. And then they ended up tipping the caddy as though he caddied for all four people. So, you're talking a few $1,000s on the day so that nobody had to watch them swing or whatever. And so if you don't have those kind of means, what I want you to do is trust that the caddy's going to walk alongside you and try to encourage you, try to give you what you need to give you the best day possible. And so some players show up like Jason, and they are laid back, and they're looking to have a great day, and they adjust when things don't quite go their way. And then, Nick, you've seen the players who show up and are super intense, and super serious, and you better be absolutely on your game that day and giving them all the course knowledge that they need. And they're judging you on a different standard than somebody like a Jason is judging the caddy.
Yep. I had a guy like my first year when I was kind of an inexperienced caddy, and he was a pretty good player. I think he was probably like +1, +2, and I think he like 3-putted the last 3 greens, and he like gave me like a pretty small tip at the end of the round. Didn't shake my hand, and just like it was my fault that he 3-putted those last 3 greens. And I'm just like, wow. So lesson learned.
Yeah, that's one thing that is a kind of a frustration when somebody does kind of change their gratuity based on how they play rather than how the caddy hustles or performs for them. Because as much as the caddy can help someone out, they can't swing the club for them. And so if somebody shanks it around all day, because what couldn't I do for you? Remind me, Jason, when you finally decided to have some fun with putting. What did you pull out?
What hole is that on? About 15 there, I think. It was around 15. And I've been known to do this before when I've just been struggling. I try to keep it light and enjoy myself. So I started putting with my hybrid. Just to shake things up a bit, make it more enjoyable. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I had a guy in a group this year who he putted with whatever club he used to hit the ball onto the green. So if it was driver, he used driver. 3-wood. If it was a pitching wedge, he used his pitching wedge, because he kind of got to that point where he's like, it's all gone downhill anyways. We might as well.
I mean, I feel like I started putting a little bit better that.
So Jason, tell the listener before we finish here. Give them some encouragement about, maybe making the leap to go to a resort course and spend that money, or give them some encouragement about what they can expect.
I'm a huge bucket list guy. You only live once. As long as you can be responsible with your money and take a trip here and there and, go to a place like what we're talking about, it's definitely worth it. It's, an experience that you'll never forget, whether it's, because of the way you played or just, being there on property and seeing the course and, like we said, making those connections. It's totally worth it. And there's nothing to, really be nervous about. You play bad, you play bad. I mean, did you spend a little bit of money to play bad? Of course, but at the end of the day, that's not what it's about. And that's why I love golf. Right. You're there to, be outside, enjoy the weather, enjoy the people that you're with. And, it's totally worth it.
Like I said, golf mirrors life, and you've got somebody like Jason here who appreciates the what some might call the small stuff, which is really big stuff, like people and your surroundings and stuff. And he brings that attitude to the course so that he can even enjoy a rough day. And I'm sure he takes the lessons that he learns on the course about perseverance and keeping his cool. And it probably has served you well from time to time while teaching youngsters.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely times where, it can be frustrating at work, but, it is what it is. I mean, you're dealing with kids. I get frustrated with my kids at home too, and you can't lose your cool,
Right. And so, thank you very much, Jason. Before we finish, you also are kind of trying to venture out into the golf world a little bit beyond going and playing. I actually still have and wear quite often the hat that you gave me during the round. My wife sometimes questions me because it's got a logo of the state of Ohio on it. But Blue Streak National, I have the ball marker too on my nightstand next to my bed, but the hat is really, really comfortable. That's why I like wearing it. But real quick, tell the listeners what you're doing.
Yeah, so it kind of just started off as my at-home man cave simulator, and then it kind of grew into me helping other people kind of put their own together. So I started documenting the build and kind of sharing it on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. And then I had a lot of people start reaching out to me, asking me questions, and how'd you do this? How'd you do that? And like I said, I'm all about helping people and talking and meeting new people, and so I love doing that. And then it kind of, it's growing a little bit, over the last year and a half on social media. So I've been leaning and kind of thinking about doing some type of podcast like this, or some live interactive show with people in the future. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to kind of figure things out still, but golf is my passion.
Yeah. Well, very good. Good luck to you. And where can people find you on Twitter?
At Blue Streak and then NGC, like National Golf Club. So Blue Streak NGC on X. And then I'm not huge on IG, but I just kind of started on there too. So it's just at Blue Streak National on there.
Yeah, okay. Well, good luck to you. Thank you very much for joining us. And I want to remind listeners as well that my memoir, Caddie Tales, is also available on Amazon, or you can find me at Caddie Tales on X. Got a promotion going on during the month of January that for the first 500 people who purchase a personalized book, you're entered into a contest to win 2 tickets to the Monday practice round at the Masters. So don't delay on that. Get in touch with me if that's something that interests you. With that, thank you for listening to this episode of Caddie Tales. And remember, no matter what you're going through in life, especially if you're going through some hard times, there's always a next shot. So go ahead and take it.